What's going on, guitar heroes? Nathan Whitney here, taking you through the tone that I used for the All About Tonight guitar solo lesson. There's no external effects. This was a direct recording that I used the plugin Helix Native, and I used Logic as my DAW, and that's everything it was. So let me take you through the setting and the preset and show you how I did it. Okay, so we started with the guitar, which is just a parts caster pretty much. It is a Nashville Tele body, which has the 3 pickups. These are MJS custom pickups. There's a Tele set on the outside and it's the Strat pickup in the middle, just like a standard Nashville style. Neck from MJT USA Custom Guitars, quarter sawn roasted maple. It sounds good, it plays good. It's one of my favorite guitars I've had for a while. From the guitar, my signal chain is from the guitar into my Focusrite Solo, into the instrument input, and using that as the direct signal for Helix Native. We've got it open here. This is the preset that I started with, that I base my tone on. It's the Brit Plexi Bright factory preset. Little bright, little aggressive in the upper mids for me. That's why I changed it. We've got here the Brit Plexi Bright doing its thing, all the stock settings. We've got 4x12 greenback with the 57 and the 121, and then at the end here there is the dynamic ambience. Great. There's no, you can see there's a distortion block, but nothing going on. There's a volume pedal in front, and I'll get into that. There's a wah, don't need that. Let's go to my preset that I made for All About Tonight lesson. There we go. That's the preset I used. You can see it's a little different. Got rid of the wah, got rid of some of those modulation effects. Put the volume after the amp, before the cab. I always put a volume after the amp or after the cab so that I can roll back the volume and still have all my wet effects continue on, the trails happen. If I need to dial back some gain, I'll use the volume pot on my guitar because that's what it's there for. So with my preset, and what we got going on is the Tima, pretty stock sort of push of the front end of an amp settings going on. We've got the gain down at 0.5, bass cut is off, treble cut is up to 4.9, clipping is center. And let's listen to that without. And with. Just a little more hair on it, and pushes the amp just a bit more. Something I've started doing this year, doing a little bit of EQ sculpting before the amp and after the cab or IR. Before the amp, I've started to do this low cut. I got this sort of trick from the internet and also just using the Line 6 Metallurgy plugin. There's a preamp low cut that really helps clarify everything and clean stuff up. So with this low cut on, and if I turn the low cut off, it's a little hard. Let me just pull off the reverbs so that you can hear the difference. So on, off. There's a little woofiness, a little low mid accent that I don't really like, so just sort of cleans up, and it cleans up the space for other guitars, basses, keyboards, that kind of stuff in the mix. So I've started doing that a lot with high gain amps, medium gain amps, low gain amps even, just a lot of amps, using a low cut in front. For the Brit Plexi, we've got the drive up at 8.7. The stock setting for this bass is, let's just double check, 7.4, and I have it up at 10. I just saw this move. The mid was down at 5.6, I believe. Treble is pulled down to 3.1 from 6. All right, so 3.1. Presence is 5.7, I brought it down to 5. Channel volume is to taste, but I would say the master volume is the biggest thing you should be aware of with especially Marshall or high gain amps that have sort of like a master power amp sort of vibe going on. If I bring it up to the stock settings, cool, but I had it at 7.4. Just something there in that power amp distortion that bringing down the master helps. With a lot of the high gain amps that I do use, I'll end up bringing this down to like 3. Little smoother, I find, when it is 7.4, I think. Let me just use the back button. Yeah, it's a little smoother with the lower master volume, but to each their own, whatever you're looking for. Sag is something I've definitely learned to appreciate. Here's the sag at 2 where I have it set. Now if we bring it back to the stock settings, not too crazy difference, but we bring it up to like 9.4. The sag is like how the power tubes or preamp tubes, some of the tubes in an amp respond when you hit it with a input signal. When it's at higher sag settings, it's a little spongier, it compresses a little more. When it's at lower settings, it definitely does not. Let me bring it back to my settings, which are 2. It's more a faster attack, I would say. And that, especially for country music and metal, you definitely want something that responds quickly and right away. You don't want it sort of sagging down and coming back up. So if you're playing country, metal, anything where you want some fast response, bring that sag down. Hum and ripple, bias, everything is pretty stock. I'm pretty sure that bias is stock. Yep. All right, so after the amp, like I said, I put a volume pedal. Everything's mono, so it's a mono volume pedal. Here we go to the cab. I'm pretty sure everything is stock and very similar, except 57, I brought the volume down because I've panned it. You can see it's panned to the left, 89. On the ribbon, I believe I left it stock level-wise, but it's panned to the right, 90. Okay, it's supposed to be pretty close there. And I only did that volume difference so that it would be even, because sometimes when you do the panning, the ribbon mic can seem a little quieter. So rather than boosting up the ribbon mic, I brought down the dynamic, the 57. If I brought the 57 back up, you can see here on the left-hand channel, and I hope you're wearing headphones, that it's a little more left heavy, and we definitely have that 57 dynamic sound at the forefront, and I don't want that. That seems a little more balanced, a little more even for what I'm trying to achieve with the tone. This is part of the EQ moves that I've been making over the last couple years. So the preamp low cut and the post-amp post-cab, or IR, I use this for any major tone sculpting that I need to do if I need to get out some low or mid or high frequencies. But mainly I'm using it as the high cut. So you can hear that. If I took that out, there's all that high-end fizziness going on. There's so much stuff where if you're playing by yourself, it might be all right. If you're jamming along where you want that low and you want that high, you want to sound all big, that's great. But sometimes in a mix, when you're playing with other people and you're jamming, it can get a little too harsh, a little too brutal on the upper frequencies. So having that high cut after is great. And it allows, especially the front of house engineer, to really push up the guitar in the mix, and we always want to be ahead of the lead vocals, don't we? So I have started using this great reverb in all my patches. I used to use a room reverb here, but there was too much reverb in the room reverb. But after 3.5 firmware update for all the Helix family stuff, this dynamic ambience is just mind-boggling. Especially I have headphones on for this. There's our dry signal. If I turn on that dynamic ambience, it's the most subtle room reverb, but it just sort of envelops the mic in the cabin and gives a... I turn it off. You can hear the difference. It's like being right on the speaker cab with a microphone as opposed to being like 5 feet away listening in a room, and it's great. You can see the mix is down at 42%. Usually I actually, a lot of my patches, I'm hovering between 50 and 60 sort of. That sounds awesome. Let's listen to the difference. Cool. It's such a great reverb. I'm gonna bring that back down to 40, 42, just because that's what I had it set. And the final reverb that I added here for an actual reverb effect as opposed to more like a space feeling is the dynamic room. So you can hear it's definitely a little bit louder. I'm not sure if there's a level boost at the end there. No, it's just the way it sounds and the way it feels. So that's the patch that I used to record that little lesson last week. Just pretty basic. Got the distortion, EQ, amp, volume, going into cab, more EQ, in-ear space verb, and then an actual effect verb. And there's sirens going on outside. Hopefully you can't hear that. So I hope that made sense. I hope that was cool. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. And if you are interested in this preset, you can copy what I did from the video, or I will try to throw this up on my website. But if you're really interested, shoot me a message or drop a comment and let me know you want it, and I will get it up there sooner rather than later. All right, hope the guitar's good. Have fun with it, because music's supposed to be fun. I'll see you on the internet.